Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. Welcome to Tsukiji Hongwanji Buddhist Temple. Everybody, please join me in Gassho. Namandavs, 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 namandavs. Thank you so much for coming and watching through the YouTube. Thank you for coming to the Saturday English service. First, we would like to begin the service by reciting the aspiration, which can be found on page 2 in the blue service book.
Aspiration. Reverently, we come before the shrine of our Amida Buddha, the Holy One, the Perfect One. With gratitude, we have brought our offering of love and devotion to honor the Buddha. We earnestly resolve to strive to understand the holy teaching and to walk every day in the blessed path so that, like the Buddha, we may attain the peace of nirvana. Namandab, 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 namandab.
Now we'll chant the Sutra, Jusei-ge. Please turn to page 3 of the same service book.
ご一緒に合唱いたしましょう。ナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダブツナマンダ礼拝。ガゴンチョウセガヒシムジョウドシガンフマンゾセイフジョショガガオムリョウコプイダイセシュ不採所便具政府上昇学餓死上分道病所長実法空教未所門政府上昇学利欲人少年上映主本業しぐむ浄土一生天人し人力現代語不所無才道頂上三苦名交際集約難回避知恵言名詞根門論閉塞小悪道通達前主門高僧上満足異様老実法日 願中樹天根不言一種解放像公正苦毒法上王大主従説法ししく供養一切仏具足主徳法元年心上門徳意三害用女仏無下知津達未不詳願学営利投資最小層志願若国家大仙の感動国書天人と内妙受ナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブナマンダブ願にしくどく平等性祭道本菩提心往生安楽ご一緒に合唱お念仏申しましょう。ナマンダ仏ナマンダ仏ナマンダ仏ナマンダ仏ナマンダ仏ナマンダ礼拝。
We'll now sing the Gatha Shinshu anthem found on page 5 in the same service book. Congregation, please stand up. Please remain standing for the recitation of the three treasures found on page 4 in the same service book.
The three treasures. Difficult is it to receive a human form, now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha, now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us with sincerity and true reverence take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together with all sentient beings, awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together with all sentient beings, enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together with all sentient beings, become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namandab, Namandab, Namandab.
Please be seated. Please wait just a moment until we get ready for the Dharma talk. Thank you. Okay, thank you for waiting. This evening, we are so happy to have Reverend HASEO Daien, resident minister of Tozenji Temple in Yokohama, as our guest speaker. HASEO Sensei will talk on listening to the Sutra on Amida Buddha. I am so glad to introduce HASEO Sensei to you.
Good evening. Cold weather these days makes us feel that we are nearing the end of the year, right? First of all, for those who are new to the IBA English Dharma service, I would like to say that the IBA English Dharma talk has such a long history as more than 70 years, nearly 75 years. And I feel I'm privileged to be a part of the IBA activities for more than 20 years or so. Well, I'm sure all of you have a 2-page handout I put the title of my Dharma talk as Listening to the Sutra on Amida Buddha this year. With this subtitle being Teaching Most Difficult to Believe. Well, let's take a look at the brief outline of the Sutra on Amida Buddha. The Sutra on Amida Buddha is one of the so-called three Pure Sutra, in Japanese, Jodo Sanbukyo. That is what Honen Shonin names it, Shinran's direct teacher. Those three sutras are first the Sutra on the Buddha of Immeasurable Life, Muryo Jukyo. We call it the larger sutra in an abbreviated form, as among those three Pure Sutra, the Sutra on the Buddha of Immeasurable Life is the longest. And the next one, the second one, is the Sutra of Contemplation on the Buddha of Immeasurable Life, which we call Contemplation Sutra in a shortened form, Kangyo. And then the third one, the shortest one, the Sutra on Amida Buddha, that I'm going to talk about tonight, which is called the smaller sutra, or just Amida Sutra, Amida Kyo. Those three Pure sutras formed the doctrinal basis of Jodo Shinshu, which is often called Shin Buddhism in the West. Okay. Then the Amida Sutra was translated from its original Sanskrit text into Chinese in early 5th century by a translator genius named Kumaraju. I'm sure you have heard his name because he's a translator for major Mahayana sutras, such as Lotus Sutra or Vimalakirti Sutra, which is called Yuimagyo, or in addition to Amida Sutra. He also translated the Sutra, Heart Sutra, it's quite large. Well, not only within the Pure school, but also within Mahayana Buddhism in general, the Amida Sutra enjoyed great popularity for hundreds of years in China, Korea, and Japan. As a matter of fact, the sutra is often chanted by Jodo Shinshu Buddhist priests and Jodo Shinshu followers as well. At such occasions like memorial services and wake services in Japan. Because of the excellent translation by Kumaraju into Chinese, it's not so difficult to chant a sutra, even for lay followers in Jodo Shinshu. Personally, I don't know how many times I have chanted Amida Sutra, perhaps 5,000 times or 6,000 times, I don't know. But there are plenty of opportunities for us Jodo Shinshu priests and followers to recite Amida Sutra. If you go read the sutra very quickly, it takes less than 20 minutes or so. But then the next is well-known characteristics of Amida Sutra is the fact that Shakyamuni, the historical Buddha Shakyamuni, started preaching the sutra without being requested to do so by his disciples. Sutras are delivered by historical Buddha Shakyamuni in response to questions raised by his disciples or followers of the Buddha Dharma. But Amida Sutra is different in this regard. Shakyamuni preached this sutra without waiting to be requested by his disciples, which is the characteristic of Amida Sutra, what we call in Japanese Mumon Jisetsu no Kyo. Let me write it down. Right? Without being requested to deliver, Shakyamuni spontaneously delivered this sutra. I'm sure most of you are at least bilingual, right? Both in Japanese and English, at least. So while this is English Dharma service, I've written down the Chinese character in Japanese. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, good. Okay, let me talk about the three main sections of the Amida Sutra, the basic structure of Amida Sutra, which is divided into three major sections. First, prologue. As I just mentioned, Shakyamuni's spontaneous preaching of the sutra. That's the very beginning of the sutra. Then the main body of the sutra is consisted of three factors. That is description of the land of perfect bliss. The land of perfect bliss is written in Chinese text, Gokuraku Kokudo, the land of perfect bliss, which means the realm of nirvana, or pure land. We call it in many different ways. Buddha nature is another way of saying that. The land of perfect bliss is Gokuraku Kokudo in Amida Sutra. Then the next one is the cause for birth in Amida's Pure Land. The cause for birth in Amida's Pure Land means what is the cause for our attaining birth in the realm of nirvana. Well, to attain both in the Pure Land is somewhat difficult for us living in the modern world to understand. What does it mean? Which means the liberation from our egoistic bondage, which means attaining both in the Pure Land. There are several other ways of expressing it, but to attain both in the Pure Lands means to be liberated from our egoistic bondage. That is the most easiest way for us to understand. Then the third factor is the final, before the final portion of the sutra, that is praise of the teaching and protection of the practicer or practitioner by all the Buddhas in the 6 quarters, which this is what we call Roppodan in the 6 quarters. Then the final epilogue is praise of Shakyamuni, historical Buddha, for expounding this sutra. So those 3 main sections consist the Amida Sutra as a whole. On page 2, number 3, praising the virtue of Amida Sutra. First, Shinran Shonin composed 5 hymns, or wasan in Japanese, of the Pure Land on Amida Sutra. Well, given below is the first hymn in a series of those 5 hymns to praise the teaching of this smaller sutra, Amida Buddha. Let me read it. The English translation of the hymn. The hymn is, of course, written in Japanese by Shinran Shonin. Seeing the sentient beings of the Nembutsu throughout the world, countless as particles in the 10 quarters, the Buddha grasps and never abandons them, and therefore is named Amida. This hymn is highly popular among Jodo Shinshu followers. No difficult words is used in this hymn. What's important here is that the working of grasping and never abandoning all sentient beings is mentioned first, and then naming such working as Amida Buddha comes after. So for what I call beginners to learning the Buddha Dharma, or for those with Christian faith also. In Mahayana Buddhism, there are many different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in the Mahayana Sutras. What do those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas mean? As the Shakyamuni is the only historical Buddha, then what Buddha is Amida? Or the other Buddha in Mahayana Sutra is Yakushin Nyorai, well, meditations, many different names of Buddha in Mahayana Sutra. That's somewhat confusing to those with faith in monotheistic religions like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. There are several different ways of explaining the relationship between historical Buddha and those Buddhas in Mahayana Sutra. Take Amida Buddha, for instance. As mentioned in this hymn, in Mahayana Buddhism, the working of Buddha's wisdom and compassion is personalized, and it's called Buddha with different names from Shakyamuni. In this hymn, as I mentioned earlier, what is important point in this hymn is that the working of grasping and never abandoning all sentient being is mentioned first, and then naming such working as Amida comes after. I'll talk about what Amida means later, but yeah, this is the important point. The hymn here is obviously has a reason from Shinran's religious experience. Even such a self-centered, egoistic being as myself is being embraced and saved by the great compassion of Buddha. That religious experience is the base on which this hymn is made by Shinran Shoni. Now, what is Amida? Amida is the transliteration of a Sanskrit word Amita into Chinese. Means, which is derived from an ancient Indian language, Amita. Mita means measurable. A is to negate it. So, negate it. So, Amita means immeasurable, which means immeasurable or infinite. So, Amida Buddha. Well, Amida Buddha symbolizes the working of the wisdom and compassion of historical Buddha Shakyamuni in a personified form. My Dharma teacher, my mentor, the late Dr. Alfred Bloom, while he was teaching at Oregon State universities or at the University of Hawaii later, he got the most frequent questions from his students. Two questions. That is, where do I go when I die? Well, everyone wants to know that, whatever religion we are talking about. Then the second question from his student is, what is the relationship between historical Buddha Shakyamuni and Amida Buddha? Unless you clearly understand what Amida Buddha means, you can hardly understand the teaching of Jodo Shinshu. This is just one way of explaining the relationship between historical Buddha and Amida. That is, Amida is the symbolized form of the working of Buddha's wisdom and compassion. The great wisdom of Buddha, which is expressed as infinite light in Pure Sutra, is to see things as they really are. Ari no mama ni miru. Because we ordinary beings or foolish beings do not see things as they really are. Our views are biased, distorted, or as we are self-centered. So we are not seeing things as they really are. So the wisdom of Buddha enables us to correct our wrong views and what the true reality is all about. So the light in Mahayana Sutra symbolizes the wisdom of Buddha. Then, while the boundless compassion of Buddha, which is expressed as immeasurable life in Mahayana Sutras, embraces all sentient beings and never abandons them. The core teaching of Buddha is first impermanence. Mujo. Nothing remains static in the world in which we live. Things are constantly changing. Then the second basic teaching of Buddha is interdependence. All things are interconnected with each other. All things and phenomena are interconnected, interrelated to each other, interdependent upon each other. So there's no inherent existence in the world where we live. So the grasping all sentient beings and never abandoning them, that idea is based on this truth of interdependence. So what's important for us is to accept the law of impermanence, whether we like it or not. When things go smoothly or things go well, we want to see the situation remain unchanged, but it doesn't happen because we are living in the world in which we are living in the world of impermanence. So whether we like it or not, we just accept the truth of impermanence. That is a very basic point of the way of Buddhist way of living. Then the next one is interdependence. A well-known, internationally known Vietnamese Zen master, Thich Nhat Hanh, he calls his own word interbeing. It means the same. Interdependence, interbeing, interconnectedness, interrelatedness. Nothing exists independently of others. So what we need to do is appreciate interdependence. So one PCA minister summarizes the truth of Buddha Dharma as two eyes, that is impermanence and interdependence, plus two A's, accept and appreciate. If we could truly do this, then we become ignorant beings to enlightened beings. This is a well equation, right? This is what we keep in mind in our daily life. This is the core teaching of Buddha. So we accept the law of impermanence, and at the same time, we appreciate the law of interdependence. By so doing, we become from ignorant beings to enlightened beings. Well summarized. the final point on the Amida Sutra, as I put the subtitle being teaching most difficult to believe. That is difficult here is used in the sense that the teaching of the Amida Sutra is too profound for ordinary people to accept. I quote here the passage in Shoshinge. The English translation of that portion of Shoshinge is, "For evil sentient beings of wrong views and arrogance, the Nembutsu that embodies Amida's primal vow is hard to accept in Shinjin. This most difficult of difficulties, nothing surpasses." In Shoshinge, the passage is called Mida Butsu Hongan Nenbutsu Jaken Kyoman Akushujo Shingyo Juji Jinni Nan Nanchu Shinam Gashi. The most difficult of difficulties, nothing surpasses. Why? Because we are arrogant, conceited. We do not want to listen to the Buddha Dharma. We tend to think that we are okay. Our views are correct. We are not arrogant at all. Well, that kind of self-centeredness or conceit, or we pride ourselves too much to believe the teaching of Buddha. So that's why Shinran Shonin has composed this passage in Shoshinge that is, "For evil sentient beings of wrong views and arrogance, the Nembutsu that embodies Amida's primal vow is hard to accept in Shinjin." Shinjin is a tough word for last Chodo Shinshu followers to translate into English. As you may be aware, the Hongwanji International Center spent more than 20 years translate the entire writings of Shinran Shonin into English. There was a heated discussion on how we translate Shinjin into English. That issue still remains unsolved. Well, what is quite similar term to Shinjin is Shinko, which means faith. Is Shinjin in Jodo Shinshu the same as faith in Christianity? Well, that's a question. It sounds quite similar to each other. In the English-speaking world, when you say, what is your faith? Which means, which religion do you believe in? Faith is in monotheistic religion, or like Christianity. Faith is based on the relationship between God and man. Creator God and the creatures created by God. Man cannot become a God. The relationship between these two is mutually exclusive from each other. When you say, I will become a God, well, that doesn't make sense at all in monotheistic religion. So the relationship in monotheistic religion is dualistic. 二元的. So because man cannot become a God, the only thing man can do is to believe in God. Well, in Christianity, Jesus is the Son of God, Savior. So what I can do is to believe in God, which is called faith. In monotheistic religion, such a dualistic relationship. On the other hand, in Jodo Shinshu or in Buddhism, the content of Shinjin is Buddha's wisdom and compassion. So, well, foolish beings or ordinary beings, bomb. Well, in the teaching of Buddha, ordinary beings or foolish beings become Buddha. The teaching of Buddha stresses the importance of the process of foolish beings becoming a Buddha. So in terms of existence, Buddha and foolish beings is one. So the relationship between Buddha and foolish beings is non-dualistic, right? So when you translate Shinjin in Jodo Shinshu as faith, that's misleading, confusing. That causes misunderstanding on the part of those with Christian faith. Well, you may have found some writings, essays, with such title as is Jodo Shinshu the same as Christianity? Or that kind of papers can be found in internet if you try to find them. So some Christian scholars say that, well, Jodo Shinshu is the Japanese version of Protestant Christianity. Well, that's obviously wrong. But it's confusing between these two. So what the Hongwanji did was to not translate the term, this critical term Shinjin, into English. In the English translation of the entire writings by Xinran, which is called the Collected Works of Xinran. Well, that contains nearly 1,500 pages in 2 volumes. It's too tough to read. But there were a lot of criticism from even scholars in Tsukiji Hongwanji or Buddhist scholars. Well, hey, you, Hongwanji International Center, when you say we have done English translation of the entire writings by Xinran, there remains a Japanese word in the English translation. That doesn't make sense at all. And the Shinjin is the most critical term in understanding the teaching of Jodo Shinshu. But it cannot be translated into the right term, right religious term in English. But we cannot let that situation remain unchanged. So what we did is now we are doing entrusting heart. In the English translation of Tanisho, Shinjin in Jodo Shinshu is translated as entrusting heart. Entrusting heart means to entrust yourself to the vow of Amida to save all sentient beings unconditionally. But Shinran Shonin uses this term Shinjin in many different ways. He sometimes uses Shinjin as a wisdom of Buddha. He sometimes uses the term Shinjin as joy, or sometimes free of doubt. Well, it depends on the context for you to determine the appropriateness of the English translation of the term Shinjin. It depends on the context. But this is one example, entrusting her. In this English Dharma talks, what we must be careful with is the fact that some Buddhist terms or Jodo Shinshu terms, words, expressions are simply borrowed from Christian terms. I don't want to go into any more details, but there are many different examples which I feel uncomfortable in using those terms in sharing the Buddha Dharma with people like you in English, other than faith. These were creed, sin, salvation, all the typical Christian terms. Take sin, for instance. In Christian faith, sin means disobedience to God's command, God's will, which is called sin in Christianity. It has nothing to do with Bonno in Buddhism. Salvation is closely linked with the word sin. So, as sin cannot be used in talking about the Buddha Dharma, salvation also is inappropriate for us to use this term in talking about the Buddha Dharma. Well, creed. The other example, I believe in. But the teaching of Buddha is to understand and accept the teaching through your own experience. Historical Buddha Shakyamuni says, well, in an ancient Pali text, which I read at the very end of my talk, that is, do not believe in me, do not believe my teaching. You hear, listen to my talk, and test it by yourself. Appeal to your own experience. And if you find it true, then accept it. Don't believe in me just because I have a little bit more experience than you. Don't believe what I say to you for that reason. Believe in yourself. That is the words of historical Buddha Shakyamuni in an ancient Buddhist text. So, well, talking back to the difference between faith and shinjin, it's different. Well, Buddhism is from Christianity, and Jodo Shinshu is certainly not the Japanese version of Protestant Christianity, but it's confusing, misunderstanding, easy to misunderstand. So I will close my talk. So I hope I could clarify some misunderstanding or misconception between monotheistic religions like Christianity and Jodo Shinshu in Mahayana Buddhism. Well, time is up. So I will close my talk tonight. So as we move towards the end of the year, I do hope that you have a happy and prosperous New Year. Thank you so much for your attention. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, HASEO sensei. I could learn a lot from sensei's Dharma talk. And I sincerely apologize what you needed to see during sensei's Dharma talk. I think some of you may have been confused a little. So I'm so sorry. I'm apologizing. And I think that in Jodoshin Buddhism, I think listening to Dharma talk is just listening to Dharma talk. It's about Amida Buddha, so it's not listening to Dharma talk with our knowledge or values and experiences. It's just listening to Dharma talk, I think. So I sincerely apologize what you needed to see. I'm so sorry what happened. Well, we will now sing the gatha, Namo Amida Butsu, on page 6 in the blue service book. Congregation, please stand up. Please be seated. Let us recite together the Shinshu Creed found on page 2 in the same service book.
The Shinshu Creed. We single-heartedly take refuge upon Tathagata Amitabha for the enlightenment in the life to come, abstaining from all sundry practices and teachings and giving up the trust in our powerless self. We believe that the assurance of our rebirth comes at the very moment we are led to entrust upon the Buddha and call the name Namo Amida Butsu in happiness and thankfulness for the Buddha's great compassion. We also acknowledge gratefully the benign benevolence of our founder and the succeeding masters who have led us to believe in this profound teaching. And we do now endeavor to follow throughout our lives the way laid down for us. Namanda butsu, namanda butsu, namanda. Benediction. Amida Buddha surrounds all men and all forms of life with infinite life and light. Particularly, does the Buddha send forth loving thoughts to those in suffering and sorrow, to all those in doubt and ignorance, to all who are striving to attain truth, and to those whose feet are standing close to the great change men call death. Amida Buddha sends forth oceans of wisdom and compassion. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namanda Bu, Namanda Bu, Namanda Bu, Namanda.
We would like to thank you all of here attending here in person and watching through the YouTube of today's Tsukiji Hongwanji's English Dharma service. For those attending here in person, please take time to scan the QR code located near the entrance. For those watching online, please click on the link provided in the description field. We would really appreciate if you could fill up the survey provided in the link and give us your feedbacks or views so that we can improve our services. The next service will be held on January 27th at 5:30 p.m. in the same room. The guest speaker will be Reverend Jin Sekiya, Minister Zennoji Temple in Wakayama. And the topic will be meaning of the sutras reflected in daily life, daily culture. We look forward to seeing you again. Let us put our hands together in Gassho. Namanda, 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 Namanda. Please feel free to come forward to offer incense. And after that, please feel free to join us in the fellowship and refreshments after the service. Thank you so much for coming. どうもありがとうございました。お気をつけてお帰りください。